The United States Navy has formally awarded the largest ever shipbuilding contract, awarding a $22 billion deal to General Dynamics Electric Boat for up to 10 Block V Virginia-class submarines, 8 of which are going to have the new Virginia payload module. The work will be split with Newport News Naval Shipbuilding, with 6 being built there and 4 at Electric Boat. Now that's because GD is hard at work on the first Columbia-class ballistic missile submarine, expected to eat up much of their focus. And starting next year, U.S. Air Force F-35 pilots are going to be able to jump in a simulator and practice large-scale operations with F-35A pilots around the globe. The capability, known as distributed mission technology, will allow an unlimited amount of simulators to be networked. Now the first customer is set to be U.S. Air Force aircraft at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, and in the future, the sims are going to be able to connect with other aircraft sims like the F-22, F-16, and E-3 AWACS. Additionally, the UK, as well as the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps, are set to get this new tech. And budget gridlock is putting the future of the new Space Development Agency at risk. At least that's according to Undersecretary of Defense Mike Griffin. Since the Pentagon is currently under a continuing resolution, the SDA has been unable to ramp it up, as they expected to do in this fiscal year. Griffin said he sees a lot of agreement that space capabilities need work, but no consensus on when a budget is going to come. And if Congress can't approve a 2020 budget by the end of December, the U.S. Army will likely seek an exemption that will allow the Synthetic Training Environment Program, or STE, to proceed on schedule. That's according to Major General Maria Gervais, who leads the Army's cross-functional team for that program. Gervais says a CR would end many OTA agreements in early February or March, which could cause great damage to STE, halting much of the work that they've been working on. And the Army has also awarded an $11 million contract to a team made up of Rheinmetall and Unified Business Technologies for testing of the Strike Shield Active Protection System at Redstone Arsenal down in Alabama, starting next October. Strike Shield is designed to protect armored vehicles from rocketing a plus-up to its amphibious force as the USS New Orleans pulled into Sasebo Naval Base recently. The New Orleans is set to be joined by the USS America, which would raise the total ships deployed there from 5 from the current 3. They'll augment the USS Green Bay, the USS Ashland, and the USS Germantown as the Navy's only permanently forward-deployed amphibious force. Now this comes as the United States is shifting more forces to the Pacific as part of a focus on China. And this week was a big week for NATO, as the alliance gathered in London to celebrate its 70th anniversary. And there was certainly a lot to discuss, especially as many of the leaders have had a lot to say about NATO recently. Here's some highlights.
It's a tough statement, though, when you make a statement like that. That is a very nasty statement to essentially 28, including them, 28 countries. I think that, you have a very high unemployment rate in France. France is not doing well economically at all. They're starting to tax other people's products, so therefore we go and tax them. It's just taking place right now on technology, and we're doing their wines and everything else. And it's a very tough statement to make when you have such difficulty in France. You look at what's happened with the yellow vests, or you look at what's going on.
Rockets, missiles, and other threats. The testing is expected to inform the Army's plans for protecting new armored vehicles such as the OMFV, or Mobile Protected Firepower, that are set to enter the force in the 2020s. And the Navy's Japan-based 7th Fleet is
doing certain parts of their season. They've had a very rough year. And you just can't go around making statements like that about NATO. It's very disrespectful.
It was agreed amongst all of us that 70 years after its foundation here in London, it is absolutely true to say that NATO is the most successful alliance in history. And everybody also attested to the fundamental reason for the success of that alliance, and it is based on the idea of solidarity in defense of our values of freedom and democracy, the basic idea of all for one and one for all, encapsulated in Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, that we come to each other's mutual defense. That's why NATO works, and that's why it's so powerful and so successful.
We are also modernizing this alliance, responding to new challenges in cyber, in space. We will declare space as a new operational domain for NATO, something we never had before. So it just highlights that, well, there are differences because we are 29 different countries from both sides of the Atlantic with different political parties in power, with different history, different geography. But despite these differences, we have always been able to unite around our core task to protect and defend each other because we are stronger and safer together. And I'm absolutely certain that will also be the case now.
One thing announced before the summit was upgrades to NATO's fleet of E-3 airborne warning and control aircraft based in Germany. According to Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, the alliance's 16 aircraft will be upgraded and will serve into the 2030s before retiring. Here's what he had to say when announcing the upgrades.
This is just one example of how NATO is modernizing, and this is something which has been planned for a while. The fact that we are able now to announce this contract. NATO is adapting, NATO is agile, NATO is active, and the modernization of the AWACS aircraft is demonstrating the agility and the strength of NATO. For me, this is part of the largest modernization of our alliance in a generation. And this modernization of the AWACS is one example of that. We have plans in place to defend and protect all allies, and a pattern we have seen, part of a greater adaptation of NATO, which has been ongoing for a long time. We are implementing the largest reinforcement. Our commitment to our collective defense clause is ironclad, and not a modernized command structure and more modern capabilities than we had for decades. We have plans, but also the capabilities to protect all NATO allies. And again, the new modern AWACS aircraft is one part of that. And the AWACS modernization doesn't only show that NATO is